Hello, everybody. 50 seconds to go. This is me remembering to unmute Mark and I so you can actually hear us before we start the
Hi,
show.
everybody.
And let's see. Peter's here. Beth is here. Christopher's here. And Paul is here. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, Beth's early, which is nice. Of course, we always love it when you guys hang out with us. Let me switch
Yeah.
views here. I think it's close enough for us to make this officially official.
Oh,
And
Candy's here
here
too.
we are. Candy's here. Excellent. And TC is here.
TC, yeah.
Woohoo! The
Oh,
gang is
TC's in a photo blab mood.
awesome. The gang is all here.
Yeah, good stuff.
For sure. All right. So,
Yeah, we
we
got 16 on board already.
yeah, we are gonna make this official and start the party. You guys ready to go? Mark, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm ready. Everybody in the
I was
chat.
born ready.
Mark was born ready. All right, everybody in the
Okay, maybe
chat.
not quite, but
Let us know, of course. We want to know what you guys were doing this week. Tell us about your photography or other adventures. Hey, Sandy and Ness Yanez. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
I think Ness may be new to the show. Welcome. Mark, how was your week? Angela's here. Hey, Angela, welcome. Sorry, I'm saying hi to everybody. I keep cutting you off before you can even get started. Okay, TC says, heck yes, let's go. So, Mark, tell us about your week in photography.
Well, as per usual, my week was pretty slow, but I actually did get out and do something.
Ooh.
My wife's niece was having her children baptized this weekend, or sorry, the weekend just passed, and so we went to that, and I brought my camera along and did a bunch of photos in the church for them, and they were quite thrilled with them. So that was sort of my adventure. It was. I don't do a lot of low light shooting, so I got to play around with shooting at some higher ISO. Like a couple of the pictures I was up in the 12,000 range just to see how it went. But yeah, it was quite dark in the church. So I think I've had weddings in churches that were less dark than that because I was shooting about ISO 6400 most of the time, and my shutter speed was only around a 30th of a second. So it was. It was fun. It was something good to have the camera in the hand again and actually taking some pictures, because this time of year I'm horrendous for not getting out there and taking any pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the winter makes it easy to kind of stay in.
yeah, exactly. I'm notorious for that. If you look through my catalog of stuff, you'll like January, February, March is typically pretty low numbers in the photo counts. That's for sure.
Well, I've had a busy week, but before I get into it, I just want to welcome the other folks that are showing up. Mohammed is here from Egypt, and welcome, Mohammed. Thanks for joining us. And Todd is here, which is fantastic. And did I say hi to Angela? If not, I'm just going to say hello, Angela, again. And let's just catch up with what everybody's been doing. TC says he's working with his clients and trying to get them to agree to his license and usage terms. And he says it's something that he didn't discuss with them initially because he didn't think about it, as this is something sort of new to him. So he says, I'm not sure if they're objecting just yet. He's just proposing his fee and the agreement, but they need to tell me what they're spending on media. So you're trying to get that stuff worked out. And that's good. Like, it's always a negotiation. So I'll definitely be interested to hear how this comes out, TC. Be sure to let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Angela says she went out and did some late night photography at the Botanic Gardens in Colorado. Oh, that had to be
Nice.
beautiful. Yeah. Look forward to seeing those photos, Angela. Make sure you link us up so that we can see some of those when you get them shared out there. And Sandy's like you, Mark. She says no winter shooting for her either.
I'm not alone then.
Oh, I did say hello. So Angela says I got 2 hellos. I feel so special. All right, let's see. Peter says I've got some winter nighttime shooting, and he's been editing a lot. That's very cool. Thomas, another Thomas is here. Welcome and hello, Thomas. Do we have 2 Thomases here? I'm starting to lose track. Yeah, because we got Tom Vanote, and then we got Thomas.
Yeah.
And
Well, Jim just showed up.
Jim
too.
just showed up. Cool. Awesome. Love it that you guys are here. So TC, AC, tell us a little bit more about this job you're negotiating. So it sounds like you're doing some sort of promotional or advertising or some sort of images that are going to be used in a commercial form, and you're working on those sorts of that sort of agreement. So I'd be curious for more details if you can share them. Before I do my week in photography, Ness has got a question right away, so we might as well go ahead and answer that. Because you were talking about low light photography, Mark, he says, what do we think about the A7S Mark II? If you want to go first, you want me to go first?
Myself, I'm not that familiar with the Sony line, so I do know that they have one camera, but I don't know the model that is lower megapixels, but it's supposed to be like just completely awesome in low light.
That's the one that he's talking about.
Oh, is that the one? Okay, yep. Then yeah, it's supposed to be a pretty awesome camera for low light shooting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And in Nest, if you're looking for like the best possible camera for shooting in low light with the best image quality possible at higher ISOs, then you pretty much cannot beat the A7S Mark II. If that's one of your highest or it is your highest priorities, that's what I'd recommend you go with, because that's going to give you the best possible image quality at the higher ISOs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The biggest thing is that some people it'll be a problem for, or they think it'll be a problem for them, and others won't. Is mostly the fact that it's a lower mega count sensor on it.
Yeah, but even that's not such a huge deal. And I have to confess, I don't think they changed the megapixel count on the Mark II, but I know the Mark I was 12 megapixels. But either way, I mean, unless you're printing like monster-sized prints, that megapixel count's not going to be a limitation.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's sort of my thing, and that's kind of why I said some people think that
exactly.
It might be a problem.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So Ness says thank you, and you are absolutely welcome. That's what we're here for.
Sure.
Subvids has joined us. Want to say hello to Subvids, and we have Matt Petrowski who says he just joined us, so we got to say hello to Matt. And he says he just got back from the Mexican Riviera. He said he had a great week, and then he's sad because he had to come home to the snow.
That's why I don't go away, because then I get pissed off when I have to come home to the snow.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't mind the snow, but we got like a crazy bit of a warm spell the other day, and so it rained, and basically all the roads and everything was just glare ice. So for about the last 2 days, just about everything was shut down in like the central Wisconsin area where I live, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, same with us here.
Yeah, okay, so you got it too. It was covered a pretty big area then.
Yeah.
Jay,
it was a big storm, that's for sure.
Yeah. Jay Lewis says Jay is for John is in the building. Hello, John. And we've got another question from Subvids. He says, I seem to be doing an equal amount of video and photography at the moment, so my question is, what are the better hybrid cameras that folks are using? We kind of
touched on that last week too, didn't we? Or the week before?
I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure if we did, but I would say, Mark, you got go ahead, Mark. You start.
Well, actually, I think what we talked about a few weeks ago was actually somebody was asking about whether or not using one camera for doing photos and videos, or using one for video and one for still photos, but they were looking for the best quality out of both sides of it. So that's what it was. So I'm wondering whether or not Subvids is interested in higher quality on both ends, or if he's just looking for something that'll do a good job all around.
Yeah.
And I think if he's looking for something that's just going to do a good job all around, then probably like the GH4 would probably be a good camera to be for something like that.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you want to clarify Subvids, that would be great. But I'm guessing based on your question that you're looking for one, because you're asking about a hybrid, you're looking for one that's going to be good at both, but may not necessarily be like the absolute best at, one or the other. And I would agree with what you said, Mark. The GH4 is a good option. I've been playing with and reviewing the OMD EM1 Mark II, and this one is a contender for that, I think, as well. The video and the image quality is really fantastic. The video options are also top-notch on this now. And then
Yeah, and the GH5 has just been released as well too.
Right. The GH4
but it's
will
a
save
higher
you.
price point too,
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, the GH4 will save you some bucks. And also, then you could also look at the Sony line again. The A7S Mark I or Mark II and the A7R, I believe, are also good options for both video and still. And in that Sony line, what you're going to have is the A7R is going to lean a little bit more towards the photo side and a little bit less toward the video side, but still be pretty good at both. And the A7S or S2, depending on which one you would choose if you were looking at Sony, that's going to lean a little bit more towards the video and a little bit less towards the photo, but they'll still both be very good at both of those things.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not that familiar with the Sony line, but I know I've seen a couple of people. I think Locke is a good example. He was using one of the Sony cameras for his vlog that he was doing, and I did notice with it is that the focus had trouble staying on him, and it seemed to hunt a lot. But I didn't know what model it was he was using.
I'm not sure which one he was either, but I do recall, and that is correct. So it depends. Like if you're looking for a vlog camera, it's questionable, and you might be better off with, gosh, it's hard to say because I've heard that, honestly, they all kind of struggle a little bit with video focusing, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Some are a little bit better than others, but those are the cameras that I would suggest looking at and checking out for that. Let's see. Candy says, I'm going to be doing some Valentine's shoots. I mostly network this week and getting senior pictures for the yearbooks at school. That's good. That networking's important.
Networking is key, yeah.
Yep, that's what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Ness says, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, that's good. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ness says that the A7S Mark II is still the same megapixel count. And Vincent, this is hilarious, and it's absolutely true. He says it's impossible to keep up with Sony and their output. and that's so true. I saw something just the other day about the A7S Mark III, so...
Yep. They churn those out more often than bread comes out of the grocery store.
Right. Oh, gosh, yeah. Angela said she got the same weather in Colorado with the crazy ice and everything else. But she says nothing closed because they're all crazy in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, not much closed here because we're used to this weather. But
right.
It's just basically the schools closed, and that was about it.
Yep. TC clarified a little bit. He said the license and usage fee was not initially mentioned. He had shot about 80 photos indoor and outdoor for them, and they want to use 5. So he says, I was paid for the initial shoot, but have since learned to charge a fee for licensing and usage. Now, if I could just offer a little advice, and I'd like to know what you think on this too, Mark, because it's not something you considered in the first place, it might be worth just eating it and saying, okay, I realize that I screwed up here, to yourself. You don't necessarily need to say this to them, but just take the money for the shoot that you did. And yeah, if it gets to a point where it's causing serious friction between you and this potential client that, could lead to more, better, different jobs, you'll have to evaluate this yourself. But you should be prepared to come to a point where you say, okay, this is causing more trouble than it's worth. I'm going to chalk this up to lesson learned and make sure that going forward I include the licensing and usage rights as part of my negotiation and or payment options.
Right. That's sort of my thoughts exactly as well too.
Yeah.
Like it would be nice to get the extra revenue out of it, but again, it might also depend on like if they just want it for their website, then it's probably what you're saying is probably the way to go. But if it's something that's going in like a global publication and they're planning on spending millions of dollars on running some stuff, then that's a different story as well too. So,
yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Mark.
Yeah, if they are a big company and know about stuff like this, and they probably are expecting to have to pay. But if it's a small company and they just want some stuff for some flyers or their website, then it probably doesn't even occur to them. So you could almost use it as an education point for yourself and for them as well too. So because like Spyros said, a lesson learned for yourself and educate them. So next time if something like this comes up, they're not going to be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. All right, so let's say hello to Nicholas and Alam. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Alam, from France. Welcome to the show. That's awesome.
We have 32 viewers today. We're doing good. That's good.
Beth says the D750 is excellent, just saying. And then she says, where's Vanessa? She's looking for some Team Nikon support, although she's getting some of that from TC. The D750 is a great camera, but I don't know how great it is at video. And Subvid says, Subvids, I don't know if you're male or female, so I apologize if I'm getting the gender pronoun incorrect. But Subvid says, I'm using the GH4 and the 5D Mark II. And I mean, those are both great. And the 5D Mark II is one that I didn't mention, but I mean, that is a good camera. It's a bit older, but it's a great camera for both video and stills. I mean, that was kind of the breakout DSLR that really sort of got in that segment. But being older now, you're looking at 1080p limitation, you're looking at frame rate limitations, and you might need 4K, subvids might need more than that. But if you're already using the GH4, I'm wondering is it the fact that the GH4 maybe isn't that great at the still side of things that's got you looking for something else? Just be curious as to what those cameras are limiting you in right now, subvids.
Well, I would think myself that the 5D Mark II would probably have better image quality coming out than the GH4, but the GH4 should do a hell of a better job with the video. So based off of what he's saying, it sounds like he's got himself covered, or him or her. So as he said, we're not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the two, I agree with you. I think things are probably pretty well covered already. But if you're looking to consolidate into one, then maybe the Sony line would be the best option, because you'll probably get more better of the best of both than you do particularly out of the GH4 or the Canon there.
Yeah, and you could probably even use the get one of those Metabones adapters to be able to use your Canon glass on it too.
Yep, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, because Jason Lanier, he uses those adapters, and he any of the videos I've seen, he says they work quite well.
Okay, yeah, I've never used a Metabones, but I know they're quite popular. Ness has got another question. We got a question from Mohammed. And then we'll take a pause so that I can quickly go through my week in photography for you guys as well. So Ness's second question is, I have a 5-year-old camera, the Canon 600D, which is a APS-C crop sensor, and he's wondering, should I buy a full frame one? I sometimes do some work with it. We've had this discussion before. Full frame isn't necessary to do professional work, regardless of what kind of work you might be doing. But full frame can be an advantage in quality and low light performance. So, like if you're talking about shooting weddings and events and situations where you're going to be having to shoot at higher ISOs, then getting a full frame sensor could be worth the money for that particular reason. But that being said, if you're on a budget and or you can't you can't afford to buy a new camera and you're thinking I should have a full frame so that I can do this kind of work, I would say no. Keep using the camera you have and save up your money, and when the budget permits, then look at changing and upgrading your body. That's what I would say. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I think a lot of it has to do with the type of photography you're doing. Like if you're doing landscapes, then the full frame, just to get those wide angles, like the true wide angles, can definitely be a blessing. Or if like a lot of landscape photographers, like the super high end ones, will actually use medium format, so they get even more into the frame. Mm-hmm. But sort of vice versa too, is if you are doing weddings and you need the low light capabilities, or you really want to blow out the background of your subjects, then with the full frame, you're able to get closer to your subject. So therefore, your background can blow out a lot easier than say like a big Micro Four Thirds camera, because to get the same frame, you've got to be a lot further away, and that affects your depth of field. So, but if you're just a casual shooter doing some stuff here and there, then APS-C or Micro Four Thirds, it obviously works for a lot of different people, and
right.
And there are professionals out there that are shooting APC and Micro Four Thirds, so it definitely shouldn't scare anybody away, regardless of what some other people say.
Yep, absolutely. I just wanted to say before I forget, Mark, do you wanna tell them what we got for the giveaway tonight?
Oh, right. That's
we're gonna do this. Yeah, we're gonna do it at the end of the show. But Mark's got
not now.
Yeah, not now.
Yeah, but I'm giving away another print. Hopefully you can see it. It's a beautiful landscape. There's a little.
Is that a cannon? That is a cannon.
Cannon overlooking some nice fall colors. This was actually shot in New York State. So
nice.
It was took it I think 2 years ago, I guess a year and a half ago, when I went down to PPE last time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great shot. Do they put cannons in that cannon for fodder?
Yeah. That's a big lens.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so John says he's looking. I'm sorry. Oh, I think. Are you there?
I think so. You're starting to break up. But...
Okay, I think we both froze up on each other. All right. So John says he's looking at the D750, but is wondering if there's a D760 coming out for Nikon's 100th. I don't know. I mean, the D750, yeah, it's a little. I mean, it's not old, but it's a couple years in now, so they're probably working on the 760. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about that either. So, Subvid says the GH4 photos aren't up to it for him or her. In that case, I would probably say look for the Sony, because I think that's going to give you better image quality and video quality in one package. If you're not happy with the GH4, that's what I'd recommend. If you're invested in the Micro Four Thirds system, you could consider the OMD EM1 Mark II. Like I said, I'm really happy with both the image quality and the video quality in that, so that's worth looking at. But if you're looking to consolidate everything into a single system, the Sony might be the best option. All right, so Mohammed's question was Sony or Canon 5D Mark III for wedding photography. That's
Pentax K1. There you go.
Yeah, Pentax K1. Mark says, yeah. I mean, honestly, Mohammed, that's going to be. Both will do a great job, so it's really just going to be a matter of preference on your part. I personally would go with the Canon because I personally don't like the feel and the ergonomics and the button layouts and designs of Sony cameras, and that's a personal preference, and I've mentioned this many times before. But I know that they're actually that they are fantastic cameras. So this is, it's not me knocking Sony; it's me saying I don't personally like using them.
Right. It similar ideas of trying to buying shoes. You want to put them on. Well, you're not going to put your camera on your feet, obviously, but pick it up, feel it, see how it feels in your hands, because you're going to be using it all day, especially at a wedding. So you got to make sure it's comfortable. The weight's nice. It's nicely balanced the way you like it. Like, just because I like the Pentax doesn't mean that you will like it. You might prefer the feel of the Nikon or the Canon or the Sony. So definitely go out to your not just your big box store, but actually go to like a larger camera store if you have one available, and handle and feel all the different cameras that are there to see what you really like.
Absolutely. Yeah, that how it feels for you to use it is really important. That's part of why I really like the EM1 Mark II, and it's part of why I love the EM5 Mark II and use that camera as my camera. Okay, let me update you guys real quick, and then we'll get back to your comments and get into the news, because it's almost 6:30 already. I don't know why I'm tucking these in. Okay,
that's okay. I really enjoy answering the questions.
I do too. Yeah, I love chatting with you guys. So this is great. Keep popping your questions in. We will continue to answer them. We don't really have to talk about the news. We just have things ready to talk about depending on where you guys want to go. But my week in photography, I've been like, Busy. And I'm not complaining about it, but number one, I'm working and working on the EM1 Mark II review. And I'll tell you what, guys. Okay, I love camera reviews and I hate camera reviews. Okay? The part of getting the camera and playing with the camera and taking pictures with it and learning about its capabilities and all of those things, that part is great. The part of taking all of those notes and everything, distilling it down into a review, getting everything together, getting all my image samples together, oh my God. I kid you not.
Real pain in the butt.
Yeah, all day today. That's all I was doing. I was in front of the computer all day long working on that review. And that video I hope to have out next Thursday. So there's that. I'm also getting ready for the body paint photo shoot that is coming this Saturday. Now, I know some of you have it marked on your calendars, but if you don't, the link is right here. I'm going to pop it in the chat for you. And Otto Ott, who was on Skin Wars in Season 3, he's a Wisconsin-based body painter. He's coming over. He's going to paint up Angela like a cyborg. We're going to live stream the whole paint process. You'll also get to watch me build the whole set piece that we're going to use, and then we're going to live stream the photo shoot on top of it. So that's going to be a big all-day live stream. And to make that live stream happen, I got another one of these.
A new toy.
Yeah, which is the GX85, the Panasonic GX85, and I got this for a second streaming angle in the studio so that you can see both me building the studio set and Otto painting Angela at the same time. And this one I got with the kit lens, this little 12 to 32 millimeter kit lens, which is a cute little lens. And if it's good, I'll keep it. But I actually initially was going to buy the 12 to 35 millimeter f2.8. The problem was the body was out of stock. I could buy the kit, but I couldn't buy the body only. So I went ahead and just got the body only for now. And then I got this. This is the plug-in to let it stream to the computer. So there's that. The print, I was going to grab it and show you guys, but the print from Mark of Angela from the live photo shoot we did with the candles arrived, and it's a beautiful print. And I'm looking forward to having that hung up. That's going to be beautiful. And Peter was asking about this earlier, so I wanted to share this link with you folks. You guys remember the photo shoot I did with Carly D'Asto back in November? I finished editing photos from that photo shoot, and if you want to check them out, you can visit that link that I just popped into the chat right there. There's like 5 or 6 photos there from the photo shoot, and you can see my final edits and what they look like. I actually had a few more selections from that photo shoot, but those I ended up turning into rainy day edits because they were good, but there was a little bit too much similarity in between the shots that I did choose there to edit. So have a look at those if you'd like. And let's get back to the questions, which is we've got a chin.
Well, we know Subs is a male. He said so.
Okay, thank you, Subs. I mean, you know, we laugh a little bit, but we also want to be respectful of people. So,
exactly.
Yeah, glad for the clarification. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I'm saying this incorrectly, but Chintia says, how effective are ND filters? And says, I'm a beginner. Mark, why don't you go ahead with that?
ND filter is... It depends on what you're using it for. Like if you are actually trying to restrict the light coming into your camera. So let's say as an example, you have a 50 millimeter 1.4, but it's bright and sunny outside. And because it's so bright and sunny, you can't actually shoot at 1.4 because your shutter speed won't go fast enough. Then you could use the ND filter to basically bring the amount of light that's coming into your camera down, so then you can actually shoot. And also a lot of guys will use them for doing like landscape photography to maybe blur the clouds in the sky or make the water look more smooth or add silky kind of effect to waterfalls and stuff like that. So ND filter can be used for that. But if it's just for normal everyday photography and you're thinking of using it just to protect your lens, no, it shouldn't be used in that respect. It's primarily just for bright sunny days where you want to shoot wide open or doing landscape stuff where you actually want to slow your shutter speed down to create some sort of an effect. really, in my opinion, the only time you'd really use a neutral density filter.
I agree 100%. And the only thing I would add is that they're effective in what Mark was talking about. What you want to be careful of is if you are thinking about buying one to use for those reasons, you're going to want to invest a little bit of money because the cheap ones look attractive as far as the price out of pocket. But the color shifts and the possible image degradation you get out of them can actually turn into a disappointment when you look at those photos after the fact. So be prepared to spend a little bit of money on the filters to get a good quality set.
Yeah, the color shift is a good point. That's definitely a good point. That one missed my head completely.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, they usually they tend to give a purple hue to them. Some of them.
Now, if you're going to go for black and white, then that's not as big of an issue, but something to be aware of for sure. Yeah. Let's see. So TC's just followed up a little bit. He said they're not a huge company, but he knows the owner, and the owner is wealthy. So it's, I mean, yeah.
It can't hurt to ask.
It can't hurt to ask. Yeah, I'm with you on that. DB says hello and welcome, DB. Thanks for joining us. We sure appreciate it. Christopher says use your license agreement to cover your bases. That's absolutely correct. And TC says, I do know that they'll use them to show prospective customers the quality of their work. So, I mean, that's essentially advertising. It's not advertising on a billboard, but it is advertising in a way. So it's definitely something worth talking about, yeah. John says, Sony if you've won the lottery. That is a Sony issue. They can get a little bit expensive. All right.
Well, granted, some of these new Micro Four Thirds are pretty expensive, too.
Yeah, this is very true.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and let's see. At Pyro Universe has joined us. Hello. Oh, Uverse. Sorry, I said that incorrectly. And welcome. Chad Heft. Okay, hey, Chad. He says, here from Facebook, I don't post much, but I'm also associated with Northern Rhino Photography. Welcome. We always enjoy having folks here. Just seeing. If you live in an area that doesn't have Alp-type mountains, an APS-C can give you reach that would require more expensive glass on a full-frame camera. That's a good point too, Vincent. Sometimes the crop is actually a little bit better in terms of getting closer to stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're like a wildlife photographer.
Right. Hello, Emmanuel. Welcome. Always good to have you here. Peter's invested in the 4/3 system. No micro 4/3. That's hilarious.
4/3 is old school.
Right. All right. So Ness has another question. Says about low light photography, like shooting the stars. Shutter speed slow with a 100 to 200 ISO, or 400 to 800 ISO with less time on the shutter speed. What do you think is the best?
For shooting the stars, I think if you're doing like a wide scene trying to get in a lot of stars, then higher ISO with a long shutter speed is probably actually the way to go, because the longer shutter speed will let more light in. You'll capture more of the fainter stars, and the higher ISO will again make the sensor more sensitive, so it'll collect more light, and then for your aperture basically as wide open as the particular lens you're using will go.
Yeah. There's also the balance of the shutter speed and the rotation of the Earth. And to deal with that, there's something called the 500 rule, and I had to look it up because I always forget the exact specifics of it. So the 500 rule says that you you take the focal length of your lens. Okay, I got to read this.
Exactly how it works.
Well, Mark, why don't you talk about the new Pentax camera? Well, the rumored Pentax camera, while I look this up so that I can actually articulate this.
Sure, sounds good to me. Let me I'll just drop a link here as soon as I find it. There it is. Linky link for everybody if they want to check it out. But basically, there's a Pentax has rumored that they're putting out what they're calling the Pentax ME, which is a mirrorless camera for them, which is looking at the sketches, it looks very similar to the Pentax Q. The big difference is that it actually is going to have an APC sensor in it, so either like a 20 megapixel or 24 megapixel sensor. I think it's going to use the same lenses that Pentax currently does, so any of the K-mount stuff. It'll have built-in shake reduction like all the current Pentax cameras do. It'll be a compact, sort of a retro design. I guess it's not going to have the AA filter because they're saying it's going to probably have the simulator, weather resistant as per most of the Pentax cameras. Oh, okay. So actually, I guess it's not a K mount because they're saying it's going to come with a K mount adapter.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be an interesting little camera to play with, APC and a smaller body like that. Pentax has done mirrorless before with the Qs. The Q line in the Pentax K01 was also a mirrorless, and the K01 was actually a pretty nice little camera. It was kind of an ugly looking thing, but it did work well. Like my sister has one and she loves it, and anybody who actually could get over the looks of it and bought it were always very happy with the performance side of it. So it could be an interesting camera for them.
Yeah, they're kind of. I mean, they're not late to the mirrorless market because, as you said, they have the Q line and they did the K01, but they are definitely not in the mirrorless market in the way that Sony, Olympus, Panasonic are. And even now at this point, Canon, you could say with their M5 camera, I would say right now, like Nikon and Pentax are the laggards in the mirrorless game right now. But the 500 rule, I got it. So let me explain it. It's simple as long as you remember it, which I keep forgetting, which is why I had to look it up. But the 500 rule is that you take the focal length of your lens and you divide 500 by the focal length. So as an example, if you're using a 24 millimeter lens, 500 divided by 24 is 21 seconds. You can round that to the nearest mark, so it would be 20 seconds in that case. Now, you might be wondering, what if I'm shooting a crop sensor camera? Do I have to account for the crop factor on the focal length? The answer to that is no, because the Earth rotates at the same speed, and the focal length of your lens is what the focal length says on the barrel of the lens. That doesn't change physically, and so the 500 rule applies regardless of the crop factor in the sensor. You just make sure you're using the actual focal length of the lens and not the crop sensor equivalent focal length.
Right. Yeah, because basically 200 millimeters is 200 millimeters. It's just the field of view that's changing in the viewfinder because of the smaller sensor.
Right, exactly. So that will keep you from getting those star trails, but still getting up to those longer focal lengths to suck in more of that light and capture as many of those stars as possible.
Yeah, and for people who are serious into astrophotography, they'll actually buy mounts for the camera so that it'll compensate for the rotation of the Earth, so you can do even longer exposures. And the newer Pentax cameras actually have sensor shift technology in it that doesn't work as good as one of these true mounts, but it will help giving you longer exposures too, because the sensor will actually move in relationship to the Earth's rotation, so you can get a lot more time out of your shot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, and those are pretty cool if you want to invest in that, if you're serious about doing that stuff. And Peter's kind of mentioning what the 500 rule will give you, which is roughly, it depends again on your focal length, but up to 20 seconds, and then you start to get those streaks. And Ness says, I always use a tripod. Which is great because if you're shooting those long exposures, you definitely need that.
Yeah, you definitely need a tripod.
Now, Subvid said the G4, he loves it for video, but it's not that good for photos. And then really likes the 5D Mark II for the photos. So yeah, I can see why you'd want to condense that down into a single system. But I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like I've got like more cameras than I kind of want to admit to right now, accumulated over a pretty long number of years. But
Yeah, I'm just looking here too. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cameras in my immediate vicinity that I own, but maybe not have necessarily shot, but have collected or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I've got a whole mess of them that I use for different purposes. Like I said, I mean, I got this GX85 for streaming. I'll use it for video work too, but like the main purpose for this is for my live streams in the studio. And in my case, like I can't necessarily have this as a multi-use camera, right? Because I can't stream with it and take the pictures at the same time. So, but I totally get condensing that stuff. All right, Peter says, I usually use a tripod too, but unless you've got a motorized mount, which is what you were talking about, Mark, you can only take 20 to 25-second photos. After that, the stars will have moved and given you a streak, so then you need those higher ISOs.
Yeah, and the wider your lens, obviously because of that 500 rule, like if you
right.
have a 20 millimeter lens, then you're going to be able to shoot a longer exposure than, say, 50 millimeter or 100 millimeter or 200 millimeter. So
Yep.
So if you are looking for longer exposures, then finding yourself a nice wide lens can probably make a big difference.
Absolutely. Mike's in with some Nikon support for Beth, and he says Nikon rules. I'm going to have to put this out to the chat here. Emmanuel is wondering if anybody knows of a good monopod. Now, you say monopod tripod, Emmanuel. So do you mean a monopod that then has the 3 little tripod feet at the very bottom of it? He's looking for one for under $50. I'd have to do research into that before I could answer it. So I'd like to know what you guys think. All right. Let's take a break here, and let's do a... Angela says, every time you talk about Angela, I immediately think, I'm doing what? That's awesome. Okay, let's do this critique, and then we'll come back to you guys in the chat. So let me get this switched up here. And first and foremost, I always like to let you guys know, if you would like to submit your photo for critique on the show, you can visit selfhelpphotographer.com/photoblab, which is the link that you see on the screen right now. And on that page, there's a submission form where you can submit your photo. Include as much information about the photo as you can when you submit. All of the settings information is particularly helpful to us, but then also just the general conditions and what you were trying to accomplish with it, because that always helps us kind of direct the feedback we give, because you've got so many ways a person can look at a photo, and when we see a photo with limited information, we can only make suppositions about that and give our feedback based on that. But if you give us situational information and let us know what you were trying to accomplish, that allows us to respond to that in a better way. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this photo, which came from, I'll read out the information and then you can start for us, Mark. This photo came from, I gotta find it, Thomas Etterby, and I'll put Thomas's link in the chat. And this was shot with a Canon 6D full-frame camera at ISO 100 with an aperture of f5.6 and a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second. And it was shot using 2 flashes. And go ahead, Mark.
Okay. I really like this photo. I love the dramatic lighting in it. It is very well done. I can't really think of anything really negative to say about this one. If I had to be nitpicky, but even then, not so much. The only thing that I find a little bit distracting is the net that's behind him and the fact that you can see it. But I realize he's a goalie, so you expect to see a net there, but just the fact that it's just barely showing. I think if there's more net showing, it would probably add more to it, but I don't think it ruins the photo at all. Like it's definitely not distracting in the least bit. Like when I look at it, I just look at his face. I see his eyes, and then it's just sort of an afterthought. It's like, oh, well, there's a net there. I don't think it adds or takes away from the photo, but I think if it is there intentionally, a little bit more might have been a little bit nicer, just to, so you're not kind of looking and it's like, oh, what's that on his shoulders? Whereas if you can see more of the net, it's like, then it's like, okay, yeah, it's a net. But otherwise, I really do like this. This is a very good, well done photo. The lighting is spectacular. The focus is on. The settings that Spyros mentioned, I think, are bang on for this type of photo. It's a good aperture, so the depth of field isn't too shallow, and everything's like his eyes are in focus, and everything's behind his eyes is just starting to see as you'd like to see in a photo like this. So that's my 2 cents on it. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. This photo is bang on. And I'm not much of a sports guy, people, so I have to confess that I didn't actually get that was a net behind him until I realized that he was a hockey player, and I didn't immediately recognize that he was a hockey player. Okay, so that I'm just freely admitting that I understand what hockey is, but I don't follow sports enough to have recognized this guy immediately as a hockey player. I just saw the face, and I saw the helmet and everything, and my mind said sports.
Yeah.
This looks really cool.
I'm not a sports guy either, but I know enough at least to know it was hockey.
Yeah, so I'm freely admitting my ignorance here. Now, outside of that, once I realized he was a hockey player, I was like, oh, that's a net behind him. I get it. That's a really nice touch because it puts him on the ice in his position without being overwhelming. So I see where you say it's distracting, Mark, because before I realized he was a hockey player, I was like, is that a fence behind him? Like, why is that there? I don't understand it. I was thinking, like, is he a football player? That's a weird football helmet. And I'm sorry, sports people, I'm sorry. But that's I mean, once I realized it was great. A different approach that may or may not work, this is just an idea I'm throwing out, could be to throw a bit of a backlight, which would rim light both him and the net and give the net just a little bit more definition and a little bit more presence that might make it more integrated into the photo. But I don't know that would work. That's just me spitballing what I might try if I were shooting something like this. Otherwise, I agree with your assessment all the way across the board. It's a fantastic photo. I mean, I wouldn't change anything as far as the basic lighting goes. It's awesome.
Yeah, for that type of photo, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, the intensity is spot on. I love how tight and intimate it is because it really gets you like in his face, and that makes you feel even more intimidated and uncomfortable, to be quite frank, by him, which I think is part of the intent because this guy's like intense and he's the goalie and he's like, don't mess with the goalie, right? So awesome job, Thomas. Thank you so much for sharing it. Always, we appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts and to give our feedback on your photos and to offer any input that we might have on things.
Yeah, we're not alone. A lot of people commented that they weren't sure it was hockey either. So
so I'm not the only one.
So bad.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. All right, so I'm like way behind on the chat, but I want to see what everybody's saying here about the image, and I'll have to back it up a little bit. Yeah, Mark.
It's hard to keep up with all the chat going on, isn't it?
I know, but that's good. I love how much you guys are hanging out and chatting. Oh, Larry's here. Hey, Larry, how's it going? And he's got a recommendation. Larry Easton.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see. John says, very nice. First steps is to admit it, for sure. Christopher and Beth love this shot, but say it's amazing. TC loves it too. Those net things, he agrees. Christopher W. Hey, Christopher. Hey. We got a lot of Christophers here.
Yeah, we got Christophers.
Yeah, great photo, great shot. Everybody's liking it. A slight catch light is required, I believe, Vincent's saying. I was thinking about that too a little bit, Vincent. The eyes are a little dark. There's not a catch light in them, but I decided that I'm okay with that because of the intensity overall. And in a way, there's enough light in the eyes that you're drawn to them, but then the helmet is sort of like this barrier in between you and him. And the eyes being a little darker also sort of helps create that barrier, which I think sort of helps reinforce the idea of a goalie and this sort of don't mess with me. So you could definitely do a catch light, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. But
I agree.
That's also, obviously personal opinion, and each person's going to be doing it a little different. I'm definitely not the only one. John says I'm a Canadian, and I don't know he was a hockey player either. Oh, Christopher, this is perfect. He says, often games break out during hockey fights. That's a perfect summation of hockey based on what I know, which is almost nothing. Oh, gosh. And TC says, gee, Spyros, I know more than you about hockey, and I don't know puck. Pun intended. You guys are awesome. Yeah, John says the net doesn't look like a real hockey net, so maybe have it out of the shot. And that's kind of, I guess, what I was getting at by saying, like, maybe a little bit of backlight would have helped define that a little bit more. Because when you know what it is, then your brain says, oh, yeah, I get it, and that makes sense. But when you don't know... It
ties everything together.
Right. It ties it together when you know. But when you don't know, it becomes something that's a bit of a distracting element. So you're banking on people understanding immediately that this guy's a goalie and that the net, the goalie net behind. But as this demonstrates, not everybody actually understands that and will immediately pick that up. So you could err on the side of giving more information if you wanted to, or if Thomas's larger audience is comprised of hockey players and hockey fans, he can say, well, these guys don't know enough about hockey to make it matter to me, but my core audience of people are going to recognize this immediately and get the context of that net. So that's a choice you make yourself based upon how you are using your photos.
Yeah. Another thing, too, it's neither here nor there, in my opinion anyways, is his watermark. I'm wondering if it might have been better off in one of the corners, just because it kind of distracts from the look of the helmet and everything a little bit. Whereas if it was in the corner, it'd sort of be a little bit more off to the side. And I know everyone has their own opinions with watermarks and that, but some food for thought anyways.
Yeah, I don't mind it there. I thought about that initially at first, but I think the way it's laid over into the photo works out really well because it's got enough transparency to it that it's there enough that you notice it, but for me it's not there enough to obscure and detract from the photo.
Right.
But Thomas is here. That's awesome. I emailed him earlier today and says, thank you for the critique and the kind words. I have some more photos from the photo shoot at the link. And I did look at those photos, Thomas, and it's a great set of photos in general. Like, really, I love the intensity you captured across the board with the work that you did there. Great work. I love seeing it. And again, thank you so much for sharing it with us and giving us the opportunity to share our opinions on it.
Yeah, I'm curious, Thomas, whether or not you do those kinds of photos on a regular basis, or was that just something that you tried out and it just came out that good right from the get-go?
Yeah, that'd be a good question. Go ahead and fill us in if you'd like to Thomas. Sorry, I was reading comments and I didn't mean to get tripped up there. But okay, so I'm trying to get caught back up to the questions that folks had. So I'm back there. Yeah, and we are at that point now. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the instructions into the chat. It is giveaway time. You guys have 5 minutes to follow the instructions, which are to enter !Brewster into the chat for your chance to win. You only need to enter it once, but you do need to spell it correctly. !Brewster, just like you see Nightbot posting. Nightbot is my little chat bot buddy that's helping manage the giveaways and things of that nature. So,
and my buddy reminded me the picture was taken in Cold Springs, New York.
Ah, perfect.
For anybody who's interested.
All right, so we're not going to get to the news, which I don't really care. I mean, the news is fun and interesting, but unless you guys have something specific you want us to talk about, I'm just going to keep catching our questions out of the chat here, because I know we've got a couple more in here.
Yeah. I always, like I said before, I always enjoy the the answering the questions on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mike wants to know if we like the canvas print format. I'll let you go first on that, Mark.
I do have one picture that I have actually done on the canvas as a wrap, and myself, I like it. I don't think it's the kind of thing for everybody. It's one of those things that I think myself, I prefer a framed print myself, but the one that I did print, we want something a little bit bigger and something a little bit fancier for our living room area. So that's why we decided to do it as a wrap, and it turns out nice, and I really like it hanging on the wall. But I also like something that's a nice print with a nice mat around it and a nice frame, just to give it some depth as well too. Whereas a wrap is just sort of typically just a wrap on the wall, and that's it. You can frame them, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Okay, I'm kind of ambivalent or indifferent about canvas prints, to be honest. I've never gotten one because I guess I lean towards also liking the framed print. And while I tend to like my prints with just a very light matting to them, I think part of the reason I kind of veer away from canvas in general, and never think about it as a print medium for my own work, is that I think about the texturing of the canvas and how that would match with my particular style of photos and work, and I don't know that it would be a great match. So for me, it's not something that I've ever been interested in. So I've never gotten a canvas print done, and I've never wanted to get one done.
Yeah, so something I've seen here and there, which I haven't done myself, but whenever I see it, I really like the looks of it. And I want to get one done myself. Is a square print, like a maybe like a 10 by 10 or a 20 by 20, and then a great big mat around it to complement the picture, and then frame, so you end up sort of almost with a smallish to medium-sized print, but in a nice big frame, so it sort of draws your attention to it. I've seen that done a few times here and there, so I want to try doing one of mine like that and see what I think of it.
Yeah, that can be an impressive look. I've seen that before too, and that can be really impressive. Let's see. TC says, have you all heard what Tony said? Tony Northrup, I'm imagining he means, about ND filters. I have not, so if you want to fill us in, I'd be interested to know what he was saying. And Vincent says the green and red one of Carly from the photo shoot that I shared the link of earlier is really quite good. And thank you. I appreciate that, Vincent. I'm really happy with the way those came out. Like, really happy. And Mark, Beth says a lot of guys, Mark, and she wants us to call out all the lady photographers. So we got to give a shout out to all of our lady female photographer friends.
Of course,
you guys are awesome.
The ladies,
yep.
Yeah, the ladies need to be treated special.
Ladies in the house. Let me see you say, oh.
High five.
High five. All right. So John says, Tony Northrup says, comparing pixel to pixel of different sized sensor cameras may give you the similar results, but won't bear out when you print it. And he's wondering what we think about that, or what I think about that, based on my comparison of the EM1 Mark II and the D750. That's a really good question. And I mean, I can't give an honest answer because I haven't printed a D750. I'd have to get together with Andrew, and I think I probably won't be able to do it with this camera because I'm going to have to send it back pretty quick. But I might try to pull it off because I have another week or so with this before I got to send it back. I might try to get together with Andrew super fast, and both of us take an exact same photo of the exact same thing, same settings, same everything, same composition, same lighting, and print it out and do a comparison and see. Based on my experience up until this point, I've been delighted and thrilled with all of the prints that I've ever done, and all I've ever shot is crop sensor cameras. Micro Four Thirds, and APS-C, and I've never been disappointed in a print that I've made. But I've never done a comparison with the exact same thing on a full frame. So I will do that test if I can. If I can't do it with this camera, I'll have to do it with my EM5 Mark II and a full frame and go from there.
Yeah,
what do you think,
opinion.
Mark?
I don't think you'll see that much of a difference unless you're printing out like maybe like a 20 by 30 or something like that. I think anything much smaller than that would probably be negligible difference, in my opinion. Like I know what he's saying about Tony doing those comparisons, and I like watching his videos, but sometimes with some of his stuff, I find that he just gets almost too technical with the stuff that he's talking about, and for probably like 90% of the people out there, it's neither here nor there. But so it's kind of a tough one when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. It's basically the same sort of thing as pixel peeping. It's just pixel peeping on paper, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to see a discernible difference. And depending on the size of the print, it might be easier to see that difference. But more often than not, I would bet that you won't see that difference unless you're up there with your face in the print and maybe even looking at it with a magnifying glass. At which point, you're not really enjoying the print for what it is.
Yeah, and typically the larger the print is, the further away from it you're standing. So
right. So even then, you probably won't see it. But like I said, I mean, I am genuinely interested in the results of that sort of comparison. So I'm going to try to make that happen. In fact, I will make it happen. I just can't guarantee it'll happen with the EM1 Mark II. So we'll see what happens. And Larry, I think we said hello, but definitely want to make sure we do. TC says,
try not to let anybody
out
or leave anybody out.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah. Who won?
Oh, yeah, let me do the drawing. Okay, roll it, and bada bing, bada boom. Classic Mama 53. Awesome.
Cool.
I didn't even know you were here, Classic Mama 53, but congratulations. And
you won the print.
Yeah, you won the print. And Mark, you want to drop your email in there so that Classic Mama, I'm guessing female, can email you. She can email you with her shipping details, and you can get the printout.
Yep.
All right, so it is 7 o'clock. I think we can take a couple more minutes here. What do you think, Mark?
I'm game.
Okay, we'll take a couple more minutes.
All night,
You're here all night. All right, so I think Mike is trying to quiz us. He wants to know what the reciprocal rule is without using Google. Mark, you want to take it, or you want me to take it?
You take it.
All right. The reciprocal rule, Mike, you got to tell us if we pass the test, is the rule, and it's not really a rule, it's a guideline, but it's a guideline to help you choose a shutter speed to avoid camera shake. And the rule goes, whatever your focal length is on your lens, so in this case 40 millimeters, is the shutter speed you would use to be able to handhold and get a sharp photo, 1 over that focal length. So 1/40th of a second, in theory, would give me a sharp handheld photo, assuming the subject is still enough, because when you're getting into that shutter speed range, you can start to see movement from your subject show up. But by the same token, if you were shooting, say, a 200 millimeter focal length, then if you're hand holding the camera, you would want to shoot that at 1/200th of a second at a minimum, in theory, to get a sharp photo. It's a guideline because how you hold your camera makes a difference, so it's something you always want to test for yourself.
Yeah. I couldn't have told you that's what it was called.
Yeah, and Sandy clarified the 500 rule for us, which is absolutely right. I'm glad you did that. I wish I'd have seen that comment before I did all the looking up that I did. And Ness had a question earlier, and I think I might have missed it, but I'll paraphrase it, which was Ness was wondering what, and I'd like to hear this from everybody in the chat, not just Mark and I. But I'd like to know, Ness wanted to know what was your first camera, and did you ever shoot film? And Mark, go ahead, and then I'll follow up after you.
Okay, listen, this is going to be an easy one. Because I was saying I had cameras all within my reach. This was my first 35 millimeter Pentax PZ10.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can kind of see why I've always stuck with Pentax.
And that answers the question of have you ever shot film as well.
Yep, and there's no film in it, essentially.
So my first camera where I was taking photography like seriously was the Canon PowerShot A40. It was a digital camera, but I have shot film, and fairly soon after that, I also landed in the Pentax world when I picked up a Pentax K1000 at a garage sale. That was my first film SLR. And I have principally shot digital over the years, but I always have a few rolls of film on hand and a few film cameras, and I try to shoot them, but I'm not going to lie, I have not now shot film for years, although I keep meaning to get out and do it. I just haven't yet. So that's...
I actually have a Pentax
K1000?
Spotmatic, actually.
Ooh, nice.
No film in it, but I want to run a few rolls through it. And I've actually do have an old Minolta that's sitting over there. I've had in it a roll of black and white, which I think I've had in it for about 4 years now, but I haven't finished it. You know, one of those projects.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not afraid of film. It's just digital is just so much more convenient.
Yeah. So Peter says, this is funny. Peter says, if you think 4/3 is old school, you should check out my collection of East German and Soviet M42s. I bet you those are some awesome cameras.
Actually, someone mentioned also that they have a Brownie. I actually have a Brownie here as well too.
I think I got a couple Brownies as well, actually.
Yeah, this is my Brownie.
Oh yeah, that's one of the super old school Brownies, the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with the broken handle. That's
with the broken handle.
That's pretty common.
This one was passed down through the family.
That's awesome. All right, so a couple more minutes. I want to catch up with you guys on the chat. Yeah, I agree, Christopher. Ness said, I hope my English level is understandable to us all, and it absolutely is. Your English is perfectly fine. Larry, the 500 rule is in relation to shutter speeds when shooting the stars. Some of you guys are answering this, so I should probably finish reading before I answer everything. Yeah, John says the impression is that a crop 200 is like 300, but it's just a 200 millimeter shot with a 300 millimeter crop size. And then he says that's why full frame is great, because it gives you the flexibility for cropping. That's true to a degree, but it's not necessarily the full frame. It's about the resolution. But generally speaking, the bigger the sensor, the easier it is to pack more pixels on it. So you tend to have higher resolution in fuller frame sensors. So that is right, but it's not that you can't crop or can't get bigger resolutions out of smaller sensors.
Yeah. Now the nice thing with if you do have a crop sensor, but you're using full frame lenses, can be advantageous because you're not using the full, for lack of a better term, girth of the lens. You're using the center part, which is typically more sharper, because usually the lens, especially wide open, start getting soft at the edges. Whereas if you're using a full frame lens on a crop body, you're avoiding the soft edges, and you can end up with a much sharper overall photo.
Right.
Using the full frame glass.
Yep. Yeah. There's benefits to each format in terms of sensor size, depending upon what you're looking for out of it. Peter, this is hilarious. Peter says, Angela, I think it'd be a good idea for Spyros to invite a therapist on so he can have a show about how to treat gear acquisition syndrome. This is very true. This is maybe a really good idea. All right, we should probably wrap this up. So let me just get cut up at the end here. Truly intense look on the goalie. Oh gosh, like the chat just went crazy on me.
Yeah.
All right, I just want to see what some of your first cameras were. Oh, that's right. Angela, you do a lot of cosplay photos. I like cosplay too. I'm trying to do more cosplay. Let's see. John says his first camera was a Kodak Brownie. Larry had a Pentax. Yay for Pentax. Beth shot film until 1991 and started in 1978. Christopher's first camera was a Vivitar 110. Yeah, I remember those 110 cameras. I had a couple of those when I was a kid, but the 110 I had was a Kodak. I do remember that. Paul had the Minolta SRT 101. Candy shot film first as well, and her first camera was also a 110 Kodak, which is awesome. Let's see. John's first SLR was the Nikon F601. And Mike's first camera was a Minolta film, and he said, nice camera with nice glass. Rob had an Agfa Click 1. That's cool. I used to have a couple of Agfas when I was actually collecting cameras. I don't really collect now. I try to just have cameras that I'd actually shoot with. Let's see. Sandy's first camera was the Canon 50D back in 2009, and it's still going strong, and she still uses it. That's what I'm talking about. You got it. Yeah, that's exactly.
Wear that camera out.
Yeah, wear it out. That's what I try to do, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, it would be foolish for me to say I don't have gear acquisition syndrome, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Vincent had a pink 25mm Ricoh. That's awesome. And Joe had a film with Canon rangefinder. Okay, I wonder. Oh, I can't remember the Canonette. Was it one of those? Maybe. All right. Let's see. Peter's first was an old Kodak Ektra 110 cassette film camera. And Mike says, got to use the payphone to see if my film is developed. That's awesome. Yeah. DB's first was the K1000. This is awesome. And John says Tony Northrup disagrees with you, Mark.
Lots of people do.
And Beth says she always disagrees with you.
Yeah, I believe that.
Okay, on that note, I think we should wrap it up at 7:10, and we tend to end up running a little bit over all the time, but we don't want to go too late because we want to respect your time. So before I let you wrap it up for us, Mark, as always, we want to say thank you so much to everybody who joins us. We appreciate the heck out of it. We love spending this time with you, chatting with you, offering our advice and help when we can. It's a joy for us to do. The thing you guys know you need to do, of course, is to get out there and take some damn photos, gear acquired or not. Mark, any last words, parting words for these folks tonight?
No, I don't think so, other than... Classic Mama 53, just drop me an email with your address and what have you, and I'll get that printout to you.
Yes, the last thing
and congratulations again.
Yeah, congratulations. And the last thing I would add is don't forget Saturday, the body paint live stream photo shoot. I just dropped the link into the chat for you guys. Be there or be square. I will see you guys on Friday with the live edit. Thank you so much, and have a good night, everybody.
Night all.
All right.